look at that. It's my friend Pat Brady live on the other screen if you're watching on YouTube. And on this screen, in my big bald head, I'm Steve Cochran, and you're listening and watching live from my office. Pat, you look terrific.
Thank you, Steve. I feel pretty good. How about you? You look good too.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a new haircut, high and tight. Yeah, I want to make sure I can expose.
Looks like there's some growth there. Is that coming back?
Yeah, I think so. It's a little wild on top, so I had to trim it.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's start with kind of an obvious question. Everybody says the maps, by everybody, I mean reporters who probably haven't done their homework. The maps favor the Democrats, certainly in the House. Reporters even saying there's a path to win the Senate back. You live this stuff. You look at this stuff. You've looked at it forever. You're the best analyst I've ever seen of this. Is it a lock for Democrats in the House?
No, it's not. The map favors them, but the reality is, so there's 435 seats in the House. Only maybe 22 or 24 of them are actually contested races. So something could change where the Democrats actually do not win back the House. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the wins favor the Democrats taking back the House, but it's certainly not a slam dunk. And it's not going to be a 63 seat pickup like we had in 2010 or a big pickup like we had in 1994 when Republicans took the House back. So it's way too early to talk about a wave. I mean, again, advantage Democrats, no question, because the president's so tremendously unpopular. But if you look at the generic polling, whether you're going to vote for a Democrat or Republican, that's what I mean by generic polling, Democrats are only up by 5 or 6 points, which is not a huge lead. It's not a wave type lead. It needs to be 8 or above, and they're just not there yet.
And with the poor leadership in the House and the Senate from the Democrats, what makes you or I or anybody else think that that's going to change?
I'm sure it's poor leadership or just poor understanding of why Kamala Harris lost to Donald Trump and why the Democrats, even for all the things that the president has done, which are just unbelievably outrageous, that the Democrats don't poll better. 47% of the country now identifies as independent, not Democrat or Republican. That's because neither party right now is talking to voters about their interests, and Democrats just haven't figured it out. I hate Trump is not going to be a winning message for them. So I'd be anxious to see if they're actually going to develop a message about healthcare costs, overall costs, gas costs, things that Americans care about, or they're just going to go with the I hate Trump. And from the people I talk to in the campaign world, they view this election as a referendum on Trump, and they're staying with I hate Trump. So they'll be likely could go 0 for 3.
So if you stick in that lane, well, first off, let me ask about that number again, because it's really stark. You said 47% say they're independent now?
Yeah. Anyway, I've seen polls 44, 47. Now, that being said, they don't vote independent, but they don't align publicly with either party. That's been trending that way for a while, but it's always been in kind of the mid 30s. But that's a real bad sign, like where we sit, right? I guarantee you there are daily Democrats, the more moderate kind of Rahm Emanuel type Democrats that would vote for a Republican in a second if they weren't completely Trump aligned. And that's a lot of votes.
Yeah, and the embarrassment continues of the cowards in the House and Senate who don't call Trump out on anything. And we'll get into that in a second. If you were running the Democrats' messaging, what would you tell them to do?
Start talking about what people care about. Start listening to your voters. No more of this democracy is at risk. Nobody understands what that means. I don't know what it means. I mean, I really don't know what it means. Why don't we talk about gas prices and healthcare prices and jobs for your kids and education costs, housing shortages, housing prices? Talk about things that voters care about. Around here, crime creeping into the suburbs, but they still just want to focus on, democracy is under siege, which to a certain extent it is, but that message hasn't worked for you. So why don't we talk about, again, things that people care about, but I have not seen any transition of their message to date off what they've been talking about for the last 10 years. I hate Trump. Democrats hate Trump. Did you know that?
I heard that. Yeah. Well, nobody has bitched more about Trump than you and I in the last 10 years. And like Glenn Close at the end of Fatal Attraction, he's still in the tub. and he's not dead yet. So, how do we know that his influence over this race won't be enough for the Republicans to survive?
You mean nationally? I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm talking about the House and the Senate race. Now, I know that gerrymandering plays into this map, which is why you said there's only 20 some odd seats that are legitimately up. But does he have enough sway over those 20 odd seats to swing it?
no, because he has a ton of sway, and you see every week when you have a primary, he has a ton of sway within the Republican Party. He still polls in the mid 80% with Republicans. So when he issues an endorsement, that candidate usually wins. Now you've noticed lately he's doing it late in the game because he's figured out who's going to win anyway. But within the Republican Party, he has a tremendous amount of influence, and it's just the opposite once you get into the general election because the moderate Democrats and the moderate Republicans can't stand him, and the Democrats hate him. So that's a good coalition the Democrats could build on. So I don't think you'll see Trump campaigning in any of these swing districts for any of these candidates because I don't think that would be helpful at all. So to answer your question, he has zero influence on the electoral process for those seats, except for the stuff that he's doing when he's in office. If he did something tremendous and there was some big issue that he took care of that helped the American people, yeah, it might make a difference. But we've seen 10 years of this with him, so I'm not counting on that happening.
Yeah. By the way, we'll get into the 2028 thing before we hang up here as well. But what would happen if a Democrat leader, someone who's a prominent Democrat, or one of the candidates for president stood up and said, "Look, we screwed up. We screwed up. We took for granted that we were the Democrats and we could swing this." And we understand why you were pissed off. We understand why you think we forgot about you. We didn't forget about you, but I certainly know why you feel that way, and we want to fix it. And we don't care about Trump and what Trump does. Obviously, we want to protect the country and protect democracy, but here's what we're going to do. I think this is a country that appreciates an apology and would respond to that. You agree or disagree?
Completely agree. I remember years ago, Chuck Percy was a senator from here, and he'd gotten away from his district. I think the guy's name was Alex Seith ran, and was going to beat him, I think. And Percy went on and apologized, say, "Hey, I get it. I've been away from the district. I need to pay attention." And it was very effective. Rahm Emanuel, I remember when he did that when he got in the runoff with Chuy Garcia 7 or 8 years ago. He put the purple sweater on, said, "I apologize. I need to pay attention to you more." I do think that, but the problem is in the Democratic Party, and you saw this surface kind of in the last primary, the energy in their party, where all the action is with the lunatic left, the Democratic Socialists, the Mandamis, the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders used to be a fringe guy that people laughed at. Now he's mainstream Democratic politics. So you got to be careful on not to alienate the people where the energy is. Here in Illinois, that Kat Abba, whatever her last name is, parachuted in from Dallas, ran up in the 9th Congressional District, not even from here, 27 years old, and got second place by, I think, 3,000 votes to a very popular Dan Biss. The point is the energy in the Democratic Party is in the crazy wing of the party, like the Republicans is probably to a lesser
and the
extent.
crazy, right. Yeah.
So the point is, I don't know if that kind of apology would work. I think if it were me, particularly if I were running for governor here in the state, as Darren Bailey, I would come up with a reform agenda because there are probably 10 reform issues that you could run on that people would like, hey, we're going to change the pardon process. Hey, we're going to codify that you can't make money when you're in office. Hey, we're going to change a lot of things. The things that they complain about, all they do is complain about Trump. They're not offering solutions to the problems that they point out every second of every day.
Yeah, well, as a politician, the Trump stuff is easy. It's also lazy. People like me, people like you, we can go after Trump all day. Frankly, we're more entertaining. And also, secondarily, what we have to say, whether it's parody or just reporting facts, can matter to people. But if you're an elected official and you've seen what's going on the Republican side, where the cowards continue to hide just to protect themselves and try to get reelected and wait for the day Trump resigns, dies, or taps out and times out in office, and then says, "Yeah, we knew it all along. We were keeping him between the white lines." If you see that playbook and you talk about it, whether you're having dinner at a nice steakhouse in Georgetown or you're doing whatever you're doing, how can you play it the same way with Democrats? You and I know more about this stuff than most people. I can't even tell you who the Democrat leaders are, other than two or three at the top that might run for president.
Yeah, well, that's a problem for them. It's not unusual because they are in the minority, but their messaging is so
There's
horrible.
no central message.
No, and it's been that way. We talked about this a year, 2 years ago during the presidential race, and we talked about it 5 years ago in the presidential race. They haven't had a message. I talked to my Democratic friends, the ones I like, good friends, pretty far left, and I'll say, "What do you guys stand for?" And they think they don't have an answer. They stand for, "I hate Trump." I get it. I hate Trump too. But I quit talking about Trump. I don't care about Trump. He's done. Especially if they lose in the midterms. He's lame ducked almost right now because we're beyond the primary period where people care almost and people care about what he says. But they're not listening to me, and I just think it's time for a reform candidate. Maybe it is time at some point, but there's too many barriers to entry that some prominent third-party candidate arise. This has been a perfect time for a guy like McCain to really step up, something like that. I just don't know if it's out there.
Well, the truth of the matter is there are no more McCains for the Republican Party. You are
Kinzinger. I got to give Kinzinger credit. Kinzinger sacrificed everything and he did a nice job, particularly on that 9/11 committee.
But I agree, but he's not running for anything, right?
No, and he's been the thing about going in that direction. Democrats never trust you, and Republicans hate you, and there aren't enough independents to carry the day. There's a guy running here as an independent doing the same thing, different than Kinzinger. This guy doesn't stand for anything. I'm not even going to mention his name. But that's tough to run as an independent. I watched the John Anderson Reagan debate a couple of weeks ago, just because I thought he got a big percentage. He only got 5 or 6%. He was one of the most prominent independents to run in my lifetime, besides Ross Perot.
Well, Perot was the last one that really cut through, and he cut through to the point of costing President Bush re-election. I mean, that's quantifiable. What would it take now for a third party? Would you have to have somebody with J.B. Pritzker's money as a third party candidate? Is that the only way to break through?
Yeah. Sad reality, yeah. Unless something really, really, really bad happens. I just, the parties are there. And I think parties are good. I think you want two strong parties. But I don't think we're there yet where an independent candidate's viable. Now, the consultants will come on and tell you that it is because they want to make money off it. But I haven't seen, Ross Perot only got 19%. John Anderson got 5 or 6%. And those are the two most prominent independent candidates in my lifetime. And they didn't go anywhere. And the independent candidates that run here in Illinois, they get 3 or 4%. Even Sam McCann, who had the labor backing when he ran against Rauner the second time around, I think only got 4 or 5%. So it's just the systems or the structure of politics right now just isn't set up for that. Now, I know from firsthand experiences, there's a lot of money floating around of rich guys trying to put together organizations that could support an independent candidate. I'm just not sure how much traction they've got.
Well, I mean, both parties exist to exist. There are, whether it's Illinois or New York or California, Democrat states, or Texas, Republican state, they exist to protect their fiefdoms and make sure they stay in power. It goes to the same rules in Congress. You can't kick a member of the House out. You can barely punish them. And you have to make a lot of noise to do that. So if those that make the rules benefit from the rules, why would they change the rules? Meaning there's no open door to ever create a third party.
Yeah, and that's where I'm talking about the reform agenda. I could come up with 25 reform planks of a platform that people would agree on. Maybe for that, term limits. Maybe for that, let's rewrite the rules from Congress that says you can't trade on stocks while you're in Congress. Campaign finance reform. There's so many issues. The system right now, in my opinion, just looking at history, not that I'm a history major, but the long arc of history, there needs to be several reforms to the presidency, the Congress, how we elect people, and campaign finance. Horribly mismanaged right now and needs to be reformed. There are reforms that could be done, and you could probably have some support for it, but nobody wants to grab those because, as you just pointed out, they like the status quo. They like staying in office. Being in Congress is pretty cool. It's a good job. A lot of cool trips, so you don't want to give it up.
Yeah, and the money's better than you think it is. The taxpayer dollars that get wasted are crazy by these people that don't do their jobs, and they haven't done them for a long time. If the Dems win the House and the Republicans hold the Senate, what happens?
Divided government, nothing, which for my view, I'm a conservative. I don't care if they do anything because anything they touch, they seem to screw up. I'd rather just, it'll be divided government. It'll be a food fight. But the bad news is for the country, the Democrats will immediately start impeachment. Impeachment every Monday or every Tuesday, there's going to be a press conference talking about another Trump impeachment in the House. That's where the impeachment originates. It's going to be a colossal waste of time. It's not going to be good for the Democrats politically. It's going to help the Republicans in the presidential race, and we'll get more nonstop cable news nonsense. These investigations. If you ever go, if you really want to see something interesting, I just went back and read the investigative report on Joe Biden that was done by the House Committee, Comer and those guys. And you read this stuff, I go, this is garbage. This is
I mean, Comer, the amount of money that Comer and his committee have spent investigating Biden and trying to trump things up.
Oh yeah, it's going to be the same thing.
Waste. So you're saying the same thing is not the same thing on the Dem side
on steroids because their base wants that. If you talk to real Democrats that I think know what they're talking about from Democratic politics, I said dinner with a bunch of them Wednesday night. They're just mortified at the prospect of every day a new impeachment hearing. Impeachment has never worked politically ever. Even Andrew Johnson couldn't get impeached. Bill Clinton left with a 58% approval rating. Trump got impeached twice and got reelected. It's not a good process politically. Now, maybe there's another reform we need. Maybe there's another removal process for the president. Maybe the Justice Department needs to take away that prohibition against prosecuting sitting presidents. A lot of reforms there too, but the current committee impeachment, blah, 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 never worked politically.
Yeah, and you can't, if the Republicans do hold the Senate and the Dems hold the House, then an impeachment in the House means absolutely nothing. Because
it's never going to get to the Senate anyway. It's 2/3 in the Senate. You're not getting, I don't care if the Democrats win the House back and they have a 53-47, whatever it is, you need 2/3. You need 67 to impeach the president. They couldn't get him impeached after he staged a coup and attacked the Capitol. I mean, you really, that's how much things have changed in our lifetime. Because Nixon would have been impeached.
Right.
That had
Nixon, and by the way, say what you will about old Dick, but when the other side came to him and key Republicans and Democrats came to him and said, you don't have the votes to protect it, you're going to be impeached, he manned up and he stepped aside. You're never going to get that from Trump.
And he also, in 1960, when he lost by 100,000 votes, was the one that actually oversaw the Electoral College vote in the Senate as vice president and did the right thing and didn't scream and yell, I got screwed, and didn't demand a recount because it was bad for the country. Listen, there are a lot of problems I had with Nixon, mainly because he was too liberal for me. He did a lot of things that were pretty far left and some of the war stuff, but he did the right thing there. But that notion with Trump is just gone. I guess another point, though, on the Trump thing, trying to analyze Trump in the context of any rational person that really truly cares about America, even Nixon or whomever, you can't do because Trump doesn't care.
No,
Trump has never cared. Analysis.
Trump has never cared. Trump is not a Republican. He's not a conservative. This new party of Trumplicans, you make the problem 10 times worse every time you make excuses for him or back him up. He gets up in the morning. He tries to decide what's best for Donald Trump. That's what he's always done. That's what he always will do. He does not care about you. He's never cared about you.
Yeah, but he convinced a whole group of people that felt they were disaffected from the process that he was the guy that was going to stand up to him. So anytime he does the middle finger to somebody, they love that. No matter if it's idiotic, like this stuff with the woman, Maloney from Italy over the weekend.
Right.
That just feeds the base. They like the middle finger to the man, and that's what he sold, even if it's really not good for the country.
So you stay in touch with people in Washington, including those that are reluctantly or willingly in the Trump circle. The Republicans that I talk to in the House and Senate say, oh, we hate him, we hate him, we hate him. And when I challenge them and say, well, why don't you say it publicly? Oh, I can't do that. Are you getting the same message?
We hate him, maybe not as much as I don't think he has any friends, right?
He never has had.
Yeah, never. Other than Lindsey Graham. And if you read the stuff, in some of the excerpts, I haven't read the book yet, Maggie Haberman's book, and some of the other things that he basically sits upstairs and eats ice cream and cookies and potato chips all day long. Some friends of mine that were in previous administrations that were in the Oval Office fairly often just said the guy just doesn't have many friends. I think everybody's just kind of holding their breath until he's gone. And if the Republicans can get a Marco Rubio, not a J.D. Vance or somebody like that, I think Republicans can make a recovery and get back to the issues that they've won on for decades.
So let's talk about that for a second. And you and I have both been investigated. So just in case we're being monitored right now or somebody's watching this, we're not suggesting anything. We are speculating on the obvious. Trump's health has appeared to never be worse. And he still has 2.5 years to run. He's an 80-year-old man, and any actuarial table at any insurance company will say, any day. It's a possibility. J.D. Vance elevated to the presidency. What does that look like?
Probably Trump 2.0 or 3.0, but with a more refined edge. Vance is a lot smarter than Trump. Vance is a lot more articulate than Trump. I think Vance deep down can probably be a lot more evil than Trump too, because I think he's smart enough not to do what Trump does, nor can he pull it off. I don't think anybody's going to take over MAGA. I don't see people running up the Capitol Hill with J.D. Vance signs, taking over the Capitol. I just don't think it's going to happen. But the bad thing I think for Vance is there are storm clouds on the horizon on a lot of these things, on the economy, on some of the foreign policy, and the other things in this country that Vance would own. He would own all of Trump's policies, all the corruption, all the insider dealing, all the things that Trump has done. He's going to own that. So I think, long answer to short question, be Trump 2.0, more refined, but he's going to be he would, if he were sitting vice president, I would guess he'd win the nomination. But I think he would lose if Democrats put up a reasonable candidate.
What kind of campaign could Rubio run, since he's been there and making excuses, though, while throwing up in his mouth a little bit? The public forgets, if they're impressed enough to consider you legitimate. Rubio's a very smart guy, but he's also a gigantic sellout. He is sold out to be in this position. So what does he do campaign-wise?
Well, a couple things. I've seen Rubio a bunch, back in the day when he was in town to do pretty small group donor events. And he's one of the most impressive candidates I've ever seen in a room. He's really smart, really likable, very serious. So I think he's a good candidate. He also, is from Florida, big state. He's popular with the base. Now, on the sellout stuff, the reality is, and I certainly can't disagree on what you say about a sellout, but that's where the Republican primary voter is, right? They don't see it as a sellout. They see it as supporting Trump. Like I said, Trump's got 85, 90% approval. So that doesn't hurt him. And in the long run, I think people forgot that he was Trump aligned. I just don't think he has as much stain on him as J.D. Vance does. I'm not saying those are the only two that would be running, but I think Rubio's in a pretty good spot.
Well, for the sake of the Democrats who agree with everything you're saying, and they go, well, there's got to be somebody other than those other two. Is there somebody that jumps to mind other than those two? I mean, obviously you're going to have more than that, but right now, who would be in the 3 slot?
That's a tough call. Maybe Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas. I don't know. I mean, I don't think, as much as I love Nikki Haley and that's who I'd support, I don't see how she gets through a primary, just because she's gotten painted with the anti-Trump brush, even though she's not anti-Trump at all. She came to the convention and actually endorsed him. She'd be, I believe, by far our best Republicans candidate. She has such a broad appeal, like put a different face on the party, as does Rubio to a certain extent. I really haven't heard much.
There isn't anybody. You make the point. There really isn't anybody.
There probably is. It's just, these guys come out of nowhere. Like, people are dismissing Rahm or J.B. Pritzker. Hey, Bill Clinton was at 3% going into the New Hampshire primary, basically, back in 92, and ended up coming in second place and winning the nomination and being president for 8 years.
Well, let's talk about the Democrats for a second, because the two most interesting Democrats that could run are here in Illinois. One is Governor Pritzker, and the other is Rahm Emanuel. You and I both know Rahm better than Pritzker, but you know Pritzker better than I do. He has done to me, a surprising job as governor to take care of the state. In other words, he's done his job. It's not been Democrats and only Democrats and Democrats first. Do you like what Pritzker's done, and do you see him running?
Yeah, I agree with you. He's governed well. Now, listen, I'm on the other side of the ledger on some of the policies. I'd like to see more conservative policies, but that's just me. I do think that. I think what's underestimated about Pritzker, too, and he's got a likability factor to him when he's in a one-on-one or giving a speech or doing an interview. He's a very nice guy. He's very likable. And he can run. We talked before about the energy in the Democratic Party, where it is. He can run on having governed a major state on he did all the renewable energy reform, criminal justice reform. He balanced budgets. He did all these things that kind of fit into the left wheelhouse, not the crazy left, but the left wheelhouse. And he can run on that. So I wouldn't underestimate him. But to the second guy too, and you know Ron better than me, but I know him a little bit. I watch all his stuff, his speeches and his appearances. Tell you what, his message it's very appealing to.
It's a home run. It's a home run. We got to work with both sides. You got to do what's right for this country. You got to do what's right for democracy. You got to make painful changes. You're not going to agree with everything. You're not going to win everything. Both sides need to hear that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about, the reform agenda. But also he makes the point, no disrespect to anybody's right here, I don't want to talk about tampons in the men's bathroom anymore.
Right.
Those
right.
issues, I still to this day think that Kamala Harris got crushed like she did, partly because that vote to allow taxpayers to pay for transgender operations in prison. They took an issue which we all agree with, no one should be discriminated against, and just put it on steroids, and it irritates people. And that's why they just get so out of touch on that stuff, that issues that people don't care about.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And the truth is, God bless anybody that has a transgender as part of their life. It can't be easy. It cannot be easy, all that. But is it a fraction of 1%? And the amount of time we have spent on that issue politically, talking about it, covering it, is colossally a waste of time. And that's no offense intended to anybody that's had to deal with it. It just is not a national issue.
It's not. And I feel the same way you do about, I don't want anybody to be discriminated against or treated differently because of that. But it's not an issue that it just makes you look like you're more concerned with that than you are with making sure your kid can walk to school without getting shot.
Here in Chicago, where you and I are, there is a mayor named Brandon Johnson. It has the relative approval rating of a bad rash, or possibly a cat fur ball. It ranges somewhere between 6 and 10%, depending on the poll. You told me the other day something pretty remarkable, and that is, you think who's going to be the winner when the mayoral race happens next year in Chicago?
If I were betting, I'd say Brandon Johnson.
How does a guy with a 6% approval rate get reelected?
Well, now that could change depending on who gets in, and Alexi's not in yet. But he'll get, so 35% of the vote is African American. He's going to get that, right? So if he gets to a runoff, whoever wins, you got 4 or 5 white guys and Susanna and some others. I could see a scenario if he gets to the runoff, he wins.
The people you're talking about, by the way, Susanna Mendoza, who was a state official for a long time, state comptroller, right?
Yeah, and she's actually, if you watch her speeches, Susanna did not do well last time when she ran. I think she'll do a lot better. But everybody's waiting to see what Alexi's going to do. Alexi's got $20 million sitting in the bank. And
Alexi is Alexi Giannoulias, a very famous Chicago family and the current Secretary of State in Illinois.
Yeah, Alexi's been on the scene a long time. Still a young guy. So I think, but, John Kelly, Mike Quigley. Mike Quigley would be a great mayor.
What about Maria Pappas? Maria Pappas is literally the only official in Cook County, and I'd argue the only Illinois official, and she's endlessly entertaining. But I never been able to parse it if it's more entertaining than political or more political than entertaining. She's much smarter than people think, I think. But could she sway this? We've got a large Greek population in Chicago. Could she move votes?
Well, she's going against another Greek if Alexi gets in.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know that. I don't know enough about her. I mean, I know politically about her. I don't know if there's a lane. I mean, what's she running on? Susanna seems to be taking the more conservative Democrat lane, law and order, things that Brandon's weak on. I don't know what she'd run on. She's been in office a long, long time, and I don't know if another incumbent's what people want. I don't know, but she's remarkably entertaining.
I agree with your take on Quigley. Quigley is one of the most effective Democrats in Congress in a very quiet way.
Oh,
He's
he's unbelievably smart, good guy.
Yep.
I think he'd be a great mayor. He'd do the right thing.
But being an old white guy, and I said this to the congressman, being an old white guy is the exact thing you don't want to be in 2026, 7, or 8.
I agree, as an old white guy myself. But then again, I do think there's an appetite in this election for a reform agenda at every level. People are just fed up with politics and the way government's being run. And Quigley's smart enough to put that kind of agenda together. Now, that being said, even though this is a nonpartisan race, when you run on those kind of agendas, you tend to aggravate your party because you're going to do things differently, particularly in Chicago. But, who knows? Lori Lightfoot came from 4%. We did that Lincoln forum. We didn't even put her on the front first panel because she polled so low.
Right.
And she ended up winning it. She's still pissed at me.
And let me tell you something. You don't want Lori Lightfoot all 4 feet of her mad at you.
No, you know what? I've done a lot of media with her over the last couple of years. She's, first of all, I think a very nice woman, and she is so smart, man.
I agree 100%. I maintain that the reason her mayoral run was so difficult was because everything became a fistfight. Everything that she was challenged with had to be a fistfight. She didn't react well to those, and she never got an opportunity to show what she could do. I think she had an opportunity to be a much better mayor than she turned out to be.
Well, she also got COVID and riots and blah, blah, blah. It was a tough time. And that's where I think maybe a little bit of difference, where if you watched Pritzker handle that, and there's people, that detractors that don't like what he did, but you got to give him credit. He went out there every day and did a press conference, and which I thought, I don't know if I'd be doing that, but he did a nice job. And I think he won a lot of people over with his ability to manage a horrible situation. But the city was such a mess. Remember downtown, everything was boarded up, and
it still hasn't completely recovered. Neither is New York.
No, but I was in the South Loop the other day, and about 10:30 at night, and I was surprised at how many people were down there that weren't stealing cars.
The crime issue in Chicago is continually overblown in comparison to any other big city in America.
Oh, totally overblown. And I mean, it's localized bad. It's still bad. I wish that we had none, but
sure.
But the people you don't hear about in our conversation here, Eileen Burke and Tom Dart, they're actually doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Eileen Burke,
Tom Dart's been tremendous. Eileen Burke was the exact right person to follow the nightmare she had.
And you don't see anything of her. She doesn't do press conference, rarely. Right. And now the thing that's super interesting, you got to get Dart on these guys to talk about at some point. They're taking over, the sheriff's office is taking over security on the Red Line. It's going to be the CTO.
Yeah, which, by the way, went away. All the money for security on the trains went away, which is unbelievable.
Well,
Paul Vallis, that was one of the main things Paul Vallis talked about.
Well, in New York, as you know, I mean, they put cops on the subway and it cleared up. But right. It's going to come out here in the next couple months on the work they've just on a segment of the Red Line, and just their appearance on the Red Line, how it made it safer. And we're actually doing a big Lincoln forum on that at the end of July. But the point is, there are good elected officials that are managing this crime issue. But, Brandon Johnson's approach, that these guys that are going down gangbanging are just misguided youth. They go, no, they're little criminals and they need to be thrown in jail.
Yeah, well, look, I said it again and again for years on the radio. Being black doesn't mean you're not a racist. You are just as much a racist as a white racist when you make statements like Brandon Johnson makes with regularity, like Tony Preckwinkle makes with regularity. And when Brandon Johnson stands up and says, oh, the kids, they're just kids. No, they're criminals.
Yeah.
And if they were white kids, they'd be criminals. If they were brown kids, they'd be criminals. They're criminals. And the only way you can have a successful, safe city for the 99% of the population that wants that and wants to live here or New York or wherever is to understand that and state that.
Yeah, and the communities that would reward you the most for doing that are the black communities.
100%.
I mean, they would.
Yep.
When my prosecutor days, it was always 43-year-old grandma coming to pick the kid up who had two jobs and was taking a day off work. And they were like, would you just stop this? But I give him credit for one thing, just as politically, not that I agree with any of it, but he stays on his message. He hasn't changed a bit. He's still owned by CTU. He's still owned by the far left. Nothing's going to change. If he gets elected for a second term, it'll just get worse because he'll be empowered.
The Chicago Teachers Union, to me, is, if you believe that Chicago, the mafia city that it was in the 20s and 30s, if you believe that story, which was largely true, the Chicago Teachers Union is the new Chicago mob. That's not a knock on a single teacher. The teachers who work hard, who are union members because they have to be, are union members for that reason. Now, there's a lot of teachers in the teachers union who believe in it, but we know statistically that there's more money spent per student on Chicago kids than anywhere in the country, including New York, including LA, with less proficiency scores, lower proficiency scores. Gee, that sounds like a problem to me. But they're incredibly powerful because of the money they have and the sway they have.
Well, they can turn out votes now, right? And that's why Brandon's there. That's why a lot of these candidates are there. But we have seen some blowback with Eileen O'Neill Burke winning state's attorney. And maybe there's another reform. Even FDR did not believe that these public sector unions should exist because it's a conflict of interest. You're negotiating their salaries with the people that you've given money to get elected. It's a bribe. Right. And I don't know why and I'm not anti-union, particularly private sector unions. I'm very much pro-union. But this notion that CTU is married, attached at the hip to the guy that determines how they're going to get paid, the teachers are going to get paid. Go figure.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
It's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Maybe do some third party to do it. But again, there are reforms that badly need to be made.
Before we go, there is an international crisis that we don't have to talk about on a daily basis because it hasn't hit here. There is no guarantee, and I maintain the people listening to this are engaged and involved, but most people, they're not even connected with the fact that it is a very dangerous world and we're at a very dangerous time, especially with the orange knucklehead that we still have occupying the White House. Benjamin Netanyahu is very pissed off at Donald Trump because staying in war doesn't just serve him politically, it keeps him out of jail in Israel. What happens to the Israeli-United States relationship? They need our protection, but will he go to war continually with, say, Lebanon, with or without Trump?
I don't think he can he?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not privy to the intel briefs. I don't really know, but I know the threat is for the Democrats. It's not cool to support Israel now. I mean, the far left wing of the Democratic Party doesn't think we should be supporting Israel. Maybe that's an opportunity for Republicans to pick it up. But again, very high level without any insider intel. I watched Bob Gates, the former UCI director and defense secretary under Obama and Bush, said every president that he ever knew tried to convince him that they should invade Iran. Netanyahu tried to convince him. I think Trump just got taken by Netanyahu. Hey, go do this. It's going to be like Venezuela. Trump gets in. The thing is, if you've watched Trump, it has nothing to do with foreign policy or geopolitics. It's manipulation of our stock market. When stock market went down to 44, 45,000, boom, things change. And he even mentioned it in his speech. So the point is, it's not about protecting Israel or the interests of the United States. It's all about protecting his belief that the most important indicator of his job approval is the stock market. So it all revolves around that. But to answer your question, I don't know what's going to happen. It seems that Israel probably needs some new leadership. But I don't think Trump understands any of this. If you read any history on Iran,
he never has. He doesn't get any of it.
But the thing is, with Iran, that area of the world that we've been screwing over for 100 years now, they've been fighting invaders for 4,000 years. They're like the Vietnamese, man. They ain't going anywhere. And if you think they're cutting a deal that's going to give their nukes away, good luck with that one. They're not
and the people of Israel deserve American protection. They literally, it always amazes me when I look at a map It was like a Bugs Bunny cartoon where Bugs is in the middle and everybody's got a musket aimed at him. In that region where everybody wants you to literally disappear, the people deserve and need our protection, but they are being strangled by their own leadership. And the idea that Netanyahu and the far right in Israel continue to put forward is that you can somehow blow up and kill terrorism is insane. Terrorism is an idea, it's not an individual. And wiping out women and children in Gaza the way the Israelis did just made it worse.
Yeah. My view, and not knowing the details, and I want women and children killed, but if Indiana invaded Illinois and raped my kids and killed my wife, I think I'd have no problem making the place a parking lot. So,
but well, yeah, I understand the emotion.
People get queasy on it. I'm like, I don't really care.
No, I understand the emotion, but
we bombed Dresden into the dirt. And
no, but at a certain point, when you see it, and it's happening again and again and again, you got to stop.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I had no sympathy for that.
Wow, I had no idea. You were this much of an animal.
No, that whole October 7th thing.
Oh, it was hideous. It was beyond hideous.
And I'm sorry, but you do that. But again, reasonable people can disagree on that point. But the point is, I don't know. My theory on Israel is I would grab the entire population, put them on a big bunch of planes, and I would give them the state of Mississippi. You can have all of it.
Or one of the Dakotas. We don't need both.
No, give them Mississippi. It's better. It's too cold. That'd solve everything.
The idea of putting millions of Jews in Mississippi sounds like more trouble to me.
The place would be like it'd be, oh my God, it'd be one of the most productive states in the country.
You could turn it around. Yeah, they have struggled.
Scrape all those things up there from the 4000 AD and just bring it over.
And lastly, and we don't have time, reason, or knowledge to get into this, but as we record this on the morning of June 22nd, the Brits now have to look for another prime minister, and I'm going to nominate you. They've had 7 in the last 10 years. And if you can get rid of a government you don't like that easily, man, that'd be sweet to have that here.
The thing is, and I Steve, I'd think about it because I've had some fun over there, but I just pulled up a Mike Ditka meme on soccer, which dominates their sports, and said, if God wanted us to play soccer, he wouldn't have given us arms. So I don't think plus I don't like the royal family.
You know what I picture? I picture King Charles and Camilla after the last visit here a couple of months ago, where they politely said Don would be welcome back anytime. I picture him in the house. You know, when you're in the house and somebody comes to visit and you hide and pretend you're not home? I picture King Charles and Camilla turning the lights off and hiding behind the royal furniture.
You know, I got 30 years ago, we got a tour. Julie and I did at Buckingham Palace when the Queen was at one of her places, and she does it every summer. So we got the real, not behind the scenes, but we got to see more of what they normally do. I left halfway through. I go, this is so obscene to me that these people are sitting here with these hundreds of millions of dollars of artwork in this unpalatial palace. I go, this makes me sick to my stomach. Why do people have this for nothing? The whole royalty thing.
Listen, I had the same sensation, and maybe you've done this as well, but at the Vatican Museum, you walk through the Vatican Museum and there's about a half mile worth of ornate Indian rugs and architecture pieces and art pieces and things. And you think, before you close one more Catholic school, sell a frickin' rug.
Oh, I know. You know what I did when I went to St. Peter's? I went down in the basements where they bury the bad popes.
Right.
The guy that was selling the scripts to the people to build St. Gregor or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. The whole royalty thing. I remember we were doing your show years ago, and I think Kate had a baby. And you go, what do you think? I go, I could care less. Seriously, I really don't care. Another inbred baby. Thank God they're finally marrying out of the.
So you're not too caught up in the brothers having their feud. You're okay with that. Whatever works out, works out.
Listen, my grandfather, God bless him, was born in Ireland, died in 1984. He's 84 years old. The calmest, nicest guy I've ever known. All I ever learned from him is one thing: I hate the British, because he lived through the crap that those people put the Irish through for 800 years.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I could care less. You killed a bunch of Irish people. You colonized the world. You screwed up the Middle East. I'm glad that we could come help you in World War II, but no, I'm not a fan.
Well, London's a lot of fun, though.
London is a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's the great Pat Brady. You mentioned the Lincoln Forum a couple of times. What is that?
LincolnForum.org. We do, you've done it. We do nonpartisan public policy discussions. We've got a thing on the RTA, the new NETA board, and what that's going to mean. It's they're virtual now. We don't do them too many in person. So LincolnForum.org, but Kirk Dillard's going to be on, all the people that are involved. So we'll get you back on there, big fellow, when we have
No, that'll be fine. I'd enjoy that. You know that. Yeah. And Kirk Dillard, I think, would have made a fine governor back in the day if things had worked out differently.
Well, he lost the Republican primary by 180 votes, I think 187. Had he won that primary, he would have won the governorship. He'd probably be in his fourth term.
Yeah.
It would have been great. I'd say that to him. I go, hey, Kirk, I found 180 votes in a garbage can over here in the Loop. You want?
and you didn't have to call and demand them? What a crazy move by you. All right, I'll pick you up. We're going to, Pat and I are on the way to D.C. We're going to go and skim the pool at the reflecting pool as Donald Trump continues to destroy everything you hold dear in D.C. Not a great summer to be a tourist in D.C. But I thank you for your time as always.
Watch Bill Maher's bet on. I'm not celebrating Trump. I'm celebrating America. It's 250th birthday.
That's what it is.
No, ignore him.
That's exactly right. That's what it is. Pat Brady, great job as always. Thank you, man.
Thanks. We'll see you.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.